Kristen is an engineer, a science communicator and a teacher, and she's currently working at the University of Melbourne as a researcher and lecturer, completing her PhD at Swinburne University in School Makerspaces. So I had to look up what makerspaces are to improve my ignorance, reduce my ignorance. And makerspaces, it says, are places that provide hands-on creative ways for students to design, experiment and invent using a variety of tools and technology. And that's probably not very adequate, but Kristen, you can enlighten us all. Ladies and gentlemen, Kristen Hebden.
Thank you very much. Indeed, I will. We're going to start at what makerspaces are because they might be new for some people. So let me share my screen. All right. So I've called this talk Finding Your Place in a Makerspace. And before I get started, I just want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the unceded lands on which I work and live, the Wurundjeri and Bunurong people. And I want to pay my respects to them as the first makers, the first scientists, the first engineers, and the first teachers. Now, I thought I'd start with introducing who I am. I am a maker. I am a maker at heart, and I have a little bit of ADHD, so I end up making a lot of things in very random ways. I have done a lot of knitting and pottery. I do a lot of electronics, wood turning, CNC, metalwork. I have done the whole gamut. And as mentioned, I am an engineer. That was my first profession. My second profession was a science communicator. My third profession is a teacher, and now I am a researcher. So I am curious is one of my motivating features. So today I thought I'd start with what is the maker movement and makerspaces, and we'll talk about your makerspace as well as other makerspaces around the world. We're going to look at inclusivity and belonging in makerspaces, so feeling like you belong and the barriers that there can be to participating. And then we're going to do something called makerspacing your makerspace, and I will explain that when we get to the end. So let's start at the beginning. For those of us who are old enough to remember the 90s, you might recall a boom in DIY. For me, it was a DIY on the television. It's not the first time we've been doing DIY, but it definitely became more popular. Throughout the early 2000s, that morphed more into do it together. And this do it together movement started to solidify and transformed into what we now call the maker movement. So it really kind of took hold in about 2005, which is 20 years ago. And so this isn't a new thing. It is, however, relatively new in Australia. So in the United States and in Europe, it grew quickly. There are these fairs that popped up and started bringing together makers. And it was that bringing together of all these innovators and designers, entrepreneurs, and they started sharing ideas. And that's really what made the maker movement become a thing. And we have a maker fair that happens in Australia. It happens to be down the road from you guys at Monash. So every year in December, they run a maker fair. It is much smaller than the ones in North America and Europe, but still definitely worth getting along to. Now in 2017, which feels like just yesterday, but was actually quite a while ago, the Maker Movement Manifesto was published. And this was in response to a lot of people worried that the maker movement wasn't true to its roots anymore. And so they characterized what we can expect from the maker movement. And they came up with these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 philosophies and features that we should all live by. So I'm going to go through them because they are quite interesting. The manifesto says that making at its core, so that very first one, is to express yourself, your ideas, and to communicate at its heart. And that you should share what you make. Share your skills, share your ideas, share your knowledge. You should give away what you make. Now, that's not meaning you can't sell what you make or use what you make or make things for yourself. But there is something fundamentally different that happens in your brain when you give away what you make. Learning, and not just superficial learning, but lifelong learning, was one of the most important parts of this. It helps with knowledge sharing because everyone can learn from everyone else. And if you are trying to learn and other people are wanting to know what you know, it creates a community. And then on that, tool up, learn new tools, but always choose the right tool for the right job. Play is very important. So the foundations of the maker movement are built on play. And play is about being joyful. And it's about that whole if you fail, it doesn't matter. So mistakes are learning opportunities, and what your goal is co-negotiated between you and whoever you're making with. So someone else isn't coming along, your boss isn't coming along and saying, make this machine. It's because you want to. And so that's the basis of play. Participate is about joining in, and not just joining in your makerspace, but joining in a broader community sense. Supporting the movement as well as the people within the movement. So that means emotional support, intellectual support, financial support, political support, and institutional support. Because this maker movement is, it's still quite young in Australia. It needs nurturing and it needs support. And then finally, just be ready for the change. Embrace the change as it comes, because it becomes more of a way of life and a mindset, rather than just something you do or participate in. Now, if we look at how this maker movement has grown around the world, obviously much bigger in North America and Europe, but it has happened here. Now, you might know a makerspace, but don't know it's a makerspace because that term hasn't caught on here in Australia. But if you look at what a men's shed is, a men's shed is a makerspace. It's just called something different. These makerspaces are popping up all over the place. And you can find them in public libraries. So we have some great makerspaces in Melbourne's public libraries. A lot of different community centres like yours. Primary schools and high schools have makerspaces. Now they do look different to community makerspaces. Universities have makerspaces, and again, they look different depending on which department is running them. And museums even have pop-up makerspaces or permanent makerspaces depending on the museum. So I've talked a lot about the maker movement and these makerspaces, but well, what are they? So makerspaces are resource rich. And when we talk about resources, we're talking about equipment, materials, but more importantly, ideas. It's the ideas and the sharing of knowledge that makes these really rich resources, makes these resource rich. Apologies. But they're more than a room of equipment. So they are often characterized by a wide range of equipment, and it will depend on the makerspace as to what that equipment is. So you can see here we've got 3 different makerspaces shown. We've got your makerspace with a lot of electronics. There was a makerspace I was in Denmark in Copenhagen last month, and that has a lot of 3D printers there. And then there's a School Makerspace in Germany that is full of Lego. So the equipment we have in our makerspaces varies. So it's not the specific equipment. The range of equipment's important. What it is that these makerspaces are what we term in the research physical nodes of a collaborative culture. And that just means they are spaces that allow for that collaboration. Now, making on its own is not new, and making happens in so many different fields. Makerspaces are not trying to take away any other form of making. In fact, the characteristics of the making that happens in the makerspace is purposely ambiguous. So the maker movement does not want to define the type of making that happens in a makerspace because it wants it to be inclusive. And this means that it can include all the types of making that you do. So there's makerspaces in some libraries that include recording rooms to record music, making music. You can make art, create art. You can, all your crafting is definitely making. Engineers do a lot of making. We do a lot of making in maths and science as well, a lot of models. And all of that counts as making. What making has unique to all of them is the community that does it. So I hope you are starting to get a theme. It's about the people. It's not about the equipment. It's not about what people are making. It's about the people inside the makerspace. So I have a question for you. What kind of making do you want to do in a makerspace? We've got a lot of 3D printing coming through. Some people interested in working with wood, some Lego, cooking, some furniture making, some baking, some Raspberry Pi, microcontrollers. Oh, fantastic. But a lot of 3D printing. Oh, sewing. Oh, and repair. I love that one. Repairing things, that's so important. Embroidery. Some great ones here. All right. Thank you for that. Oh, it's still coming up. Fantastic. My brain can't figure out what's new each time. But we will keep these. So if you are watching the recording of this poll is still live. So feel free to contribute and I will let everyone know what the results are in a week. All right, so a lot of great making there. A lot of the making that you have in the makerspace, which is to be expected because it's your makerspace and your makerspace should represent you guys as a whole. A lot of new making there as well. So ideas, we'll come back to those. Now, makerspaces, when they first started, they were heralded as democratizing fabrication and invention, and seen as being this amazing panacea for the world. Makerspaces at their very core, if you look at the fundamental manifesto, um, it's easy to see that everyone belongs in a makerspace. All types of making are welcome. All voices are helpful. You don't need to be an expert already, so you can be a novice. That iterative improvement means that it doesn't have to be perfect, and you don't need to have the best idea to start with. And because everyone's always learning, you don't have to be far along your learning path to begin with. However, signals from our wider world creep in. There are gender stereotypes, disabilities. People worry about not being good enough. They feel like they have nothing to contribute. And they can often think that these groups that have been established now for a couple of decades might be a bit too cliquey for them to join in. So it caused the maker movement a pause to really think about, well, are we as inclusive as we thought we were? And there's a couple of ways to think about this. I like to think about belonging. And this belonging has filtered through all of my careers. It's one of the things as a teacher, I make sure, so I teach physics. I try and make sure my classroom is everyone belongs. And belonging is hard to establish because it's not what I do. It's what the people in the makerspace, it's their perceptions of the space in the community and how their perceptions of themselves fit in. So the community can be great and the space can be great, but because it's tied up with that person, and then it becomes easier to see why there could be people that don't feel like they belong, even if the community is great, because we've all been subject to signals from society for our whole lives. And there's many signals we get that we don't belong in a space or doing a certain activity. So if we have a look at a couple of the different barriers that can cause people to feel like they don't belong. And the first one that is really important to me is the gender barrier. This is really complex. It's something that we have as a society been trying to fix for as long as I can remember. When I was doing my mechanical engineering degree, I remember being in the 5% of females in the cohort, and I remember all of the action that we took to try and improve that. Sad to say that that needle just hasn't budged in a lot of the areas that makerspaces do work in. And so if we have a group of people that have had clues or messages their whole life that they aren't, that making isn't for them, or that engineering or this kind of problem solving is really suited to men, um, it can be a bit more difficult. Now, fixing this is not about feminizing the making. So this isn't about turning things pink, and it's not about changing the making that we're doing. It's just about understanding that culture and understanding that it actually takes quite a lot of bravery to go into some spaces if you don't feel like you belong. So we need to make these spaces not just safe spaces, but brave spaces. Spaces where we encourage people to be brave. And that aligns with making. Um, you have to be brave. You have to give it a go. And you can't wait till you're perfect or the idea is amazing. So makerspaces are an excellent place for people to learn and grow. But we do have to make sure that we acknowledge that that can be really challenging. Another group that have been discussing their perceptions of not belonging are people with disabilities. And that is going to look different for all the different people. And so we need to make sure as a makerspace that we accommodate different abilities. And I'm talking about both physical disabilities as well as neurodivergence and intellectual disabilities. And sometimes we need to really stop and put ourselves in their shoes to look at what supports we need to put in place. One of the things that adds a layer of complication for makerspaces is that we have to make sure that they're safe. So safety is paramount, and could be as simple as increasing the number of clamps that hold people's work while they're working, increasing the number of guides we 3D print so that people can drill straight or trace a line. I'm going to talk soon about ways in which we can set up our makerspaces to help these all the different types of abilities we have, but it is something we need to be consciously aware of. Now, one that I think all adults can understand is just how hard it is to join a group that's established. Making friends when you're an adult is challenging, but making friends when you're a child is second nature. If we look at one of the things that makes it easier for our children and our teenagers to make friends, it's the structure that we put in their lives. We are constantly putting them in structured environments with different people. And we as teachers or coaches, we will structure interactions to help them make friends. So we can take a lesson from this in our makerspaces. And I know you guys do a lot of workshops, which is fantastic. So just making sure that we have that structure and that everyone knows about it. And also calling people by their names is so important. So name badges for leaders, but also name badges for new people, just so that people can use your name. There are, of course, the standard barriers that are a consequence of our busy lives. No one has enough time, transport can be challenging, and money. So if we have think about what the barriers are that could be in your way or in someone that you know who has been thinking about joining your makerspace, what is the barrier that's stopping them or that's making it a bit harder? And it might be many barriers. It might be quite a few that all add up. This poll is anonymous, so I won't be able to see who's saying what, but it is, so, feel free to tell us what your actual barrier is, but also you don't need to disclose it. These first ones are what I would expect from people who are dialing in to a talk about makerspaces. You're already interested, you're already keen, you're part of this group, so that your biggest barriers are going to be those practical ones. I know I'm the mum of 2 busy teenagers, and I have 3 jobs. So I know what it's like to not have enough time and to make transport quite difficult. One of the things that a lot of people do in makerspaces is solve problems and customize solutions to their very specific needs. And so there was some researchers in Utah, Catherine Allen, Audrey Balaska, and Ruben Aronson. In 2023, they came up with this idea of makerspacing the makerspace. So this is about looking at the makerspace and customizing it and solving the problems for your community. There is no one size fits all solution for making a makerspace suit your community, because it's going to depend on your community. But I thought we'd go through a couple of the ones that other people have a couple solutions other people have had, and then we'll have a think about what you guys want in your makerspace. Now, have you heard about the sunflower lanyards? No. In Europe and in North America, these are really big. And I do think they're going to start coming down in Australia. And I think personally, they are wonderful. So a sunflower lanyard is a way of communicating that you have extra needs that might be invisible. So hidden disabilities is the name they use in North America. And these can be just simple accommodations, or they can be profound. You don't have to disclose. No one sees a sunflower lanyard and goes, "What's your disability?" It's more about being aware that someone might need additional accommodations. And these additional accommodations are often things that will improve everybody's experience within the makerspace. So those researchers that talked about makerspacing a makerspace, they talked about adding in this session 0. And the session 0 is for both the new person coming into the makerspace as well as the established community of the makerspace. So the new person learns about the space, but the community uses it as a time to learn about their new member and learn about what adaptations would help them. It's important that we frame adaptations as a normal thing that we do. And it's not just people who need extreme adaptations. It can be everybody who needs just something slightly different. And makerspaces are perfect places for adapting. So session 0 can be about both the person coming in, the new member, learning about the makerspace, but also the maker community learning about the new member. And it's important we make sure that we don't put all the onus on the minorities to fight for these adaptations and fight for inclusion. Now, one of the things that a lot of makerspaces have had success in is making sure the rules and guidelines are very clear. And this will highly benefit the more neurodiverse people within our community, because then they're not worried that they're doing something wrong. It will benefit everyone because it just becomes clear. That's one of the adaptations, is just making rules clear that we can do that will benefit everybody. Essential for some, harmful for none is one of the mantras we use in school. And I think it transfers to makerspaces quite well. When we have sorry, let's start again. In terms of understanding that gender barrier that can exist, it's important that we acknowledge that some of our technologies are gendered. And they're gendered because, well, they're gender coded because of our lives, the lives in which we've lived in the society, media, what we're told or shown for our whole lives. And so understanding that our tools are gender coded means that we should be quite specific about trying to break those gender codes down, because there's nothing about a sewing needle that makes it easier for girls or women to use, and there's nothing about a soldering iron that makes it easier for a man to use. But we do have these gender stereotypes for our tools. We've found that co-locating different gender-coded tools near each other can help remind people that they exist. So that can be as simple as putting a sewing machine next to a vinyl cutter, next to some soldering irons. So keeping all of the things that need that same level of cleanliness together, rather than putting the sewing machine with the women's tools and the soldering irons with the men's tools, mingling them together. And this can make sense and has resulted in a lot of new types of technology, one of them being e-textiles. So you can see here in this GIF, we've got some electricity coming in, and they do a couple snaps and the light lights up. And so e-textiles are done with a conductive thread, so sewing electric circuits into fabric. And all the research says that when we do these e-textiles with people, it allows the boys or the men to engage with the sewing aspect of it, and the women to engage with the electronics. I was working at Swinburne in their engineering degree for a few years, and we put a sewing machine in their makerspace, and it once I co-located it with the soldering irons, it was the most popular machine in that makerspace. I think it was quite novel once that barrier was down. So something to think about with our tools. We also need to make sure that people don't have that barrier of feeling like they don't know enough to participate. So creating easy starting projects that have clear guidelines or clear guides to help them get started can be really useful. And then utilizing something like these skill trees. So these are from a maker up in Queensland called Steph Piper, also known as the Maker Queen. And these skill trees kind of step you through skills so you know that you're not jumping in the deep end. And that can be reassuring for people. So these skill trees, nice and useful to have, and they're free. She has templates that you can make your own. So a lot of the more experienced makers in the group might have a think about how they can create a skill tree for some of their skills. Another way of helping new makers or makers that are a little bit unsure about their abilities is the group projects. So you have quite a few group projects going. Your CNC group is amazing. And on your website, it mentions the Theremin group. All of these groups are really useful for allowing new makers to come in and gain confidence in their making. Another important element of the makerspace is just encouraging people to have ownership over it. And this can be little things like displaying things that are made, whether it's posters or guides, final products, or even prototypes. And creating posters and labels together as a community and putting these up on the walls. Now, it is important with makerspaces that we are constantly looking at what is up on our walls and making sure that we have that it still represents the community that we have. So keeping it current. And I know a couple of makerspaces that do every 3 years, they redo their icons for their storage so that those icons are something that the community has made. It's a great introductory project for vinyl cutting and or Illustrator or whatever your program is there. And it helps create that ownership over that space. Now, a lot of you mentioned that time and transport were one of your barriers. So a solution that people have thought of, now it's not a perfect solution by any means, is to create a bit of a hybrid space. So create a digital physical hybrid space. Now that means putting some of your resources online, some of your guides or how-to things, but don't just leave them online. add QR codes to your space so that they can be accessed by people in the physical space as well. And then that becomes not something that's lost on a website that you never go to, but they become living documents that are used. This is a photo from the Telstra Creator Space down on near the corner of Grattan Street and Swanson Street, which is at the Melbourne University. And their QR codes will take you to videos, instructions, and tips and tricks and all sorts of things. You can also use digital collaboration tools so that if someone has to miss a week or is ill, can't get in for transport, they can still either join in the collaboration, check later, and a lot of those electronics that you guys were talking about earlier in the making, they've got simulations for them. So allowing people to continue to work from home, because you can't always make it to the makerspace when you want to do some making. So that's just the ideas that other people have come up with. But what about your makerspace? What ideas do you have to help make your makerspace inclusive and represent your community? So I've given you another poll to see if we can capture any of the ideas. Your makerspace might be perfect for you. Maybe have a think about someone in your life that you think would get a lot out of being part of the makerspace community, but at the moment, they're just not fully convinced. How could we adapt your space to make it easier for them? A laser cutter. I love a good laser cutter. Ooh, contests. Showcasing creations. I love that. That's really important. Recording equipment. Recording equipment has the benefit of you being able to record some tips and tricks and some of your knowledge from the community as well. Sandblasting, that's an excellent idea. I like tinkering with the computer. A vinyl cutter is excellent, quite easy to do as well. Yeah, some new member things, it's always good. I love a programmable embroidery machine. Yeah. How excellent. That sounds like some excellent things for your, oh, sorry. My mouse went. And this training, experienced makers, you guys are a community full of experienced makers. So, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. My mouse just keeps going crazy. I'm going to leave it. Your knowledge and expertise in your group is phenomenal, and capturing that knowledge is definitely something that would be an excellent project for you guys to do. So that is all I had planned to talk about makerspaces, but I can talk about makerspaces for a very long time, and I thought I'd hand it over to you guys to see if you had any questions for me.
Kristen, when we were chatting, you mentioned that certain kids learn maths better in a makerspace than in
Yeah, they do.
classroom.
So my research, which is around high school makerspaces, has shown that our students being able to apply their maths in a setting that is authentic and real, and the maths they're applying isn't necessarily what they've just learned. So it's maths that they've kind of been working on for a little bit. Being able to apply that means that they learn it so much deeper. They remember it for so much longer. And then one of the things that we're really excited about is they stop that maths anxiety diminishes a little bit. And so we have a problem with maths anxiety in our students. They feel quite anxious, but doing maths in a makerspace is apparently quite different. So students stop fearing maths in their future, which is really exciting. And I think that kind of can be applied to things like physics as well. All of those more technical knowledge areas that maybe people have a perception that is difficult, and so they get a little worried that they're not going to be good enough at it. But when they do it in a practical setting, hands-on, and the makerspace also being a space where people don't have to be perfect and you are expected to make mistakes, and mistakes are where you grow and learn more. That kind of mindset means that they're more open to learning because they're not as fearful. So they definitely are spaces that we're looking in schools as being excellent for learning. Yes.
Kristen, over the past 12 months, I've been very conscious of the life of people in supported aged care facilities, which used to be called nursing homes.
Mm.
And the carers there is terrific, but it's very difficult for people there to feel they're contributing anything to anything. And a makerspace would work very well there, but doing what? Because you're talking about people, many with some dementia, and physical limitations. And if we could think of something that they could, or collaborate in making, it would make a huge difference to their lives. But I've been struggling to think about what.
I agree. We've had a lot of success with partnering schools with nursing homes or aged care facilities, and getting our students to work with the residents at the aged care facility to create things like games or specific tools for their very specific needs. Working with the teenagers has a lot of benefits socially for both the teenagers and the residents. And you can kind of then rely on the other without, it's not like you're pairing up adults with the elderly where they can feel a bit patronized. Teenagers are teenagers. And so utilizing both of their skills can be quite useful. In terms of what, well, that's tricky, and I think that would depend on the people in the community. In schools, we tend to try and start with programs that are help beneficial for that one community. So in schools, we often have a lot of rubbish issues, but I don't think aged care facilities would have the same thing, but they might have an issue with puzzles, or an issue getting books off the top bookshelf. Whatever their tiny little problem is can be something that Makerspace people can try and solve. I hope that helps.
Yes, working with younger people is an excellent thought.
Yeah. And schools and guides like Scouts groups are really looking for these kind of collaborations at the moment.
Interesting. Richard.
Yeah, so I saw last week that the club has actually acquired a commercial laser cutter and CNC machine. Well, I think what we need now is to acquire a couple of young people who know how to set them up and get them running.
Laser cutters will change your lives. I love a laser cutter. They pair really well with vinyl cutters because it's the same mindset in cutting something out that often people struggle with, that visualization. So
the machines are already there sitting in the basement. That's what we need to acquire, are the people to set them up.
yeah, they're
We're
good.
not entirely sure that they are working machines yet. We have yet to verify
Well,
that.
that's why we need the people that
And
to
they will
turn them into
probably
working
need to be
machines.
refitted.
Laser cutters and CNC routers are notoriously picky about being calibrated quite well. So, yeah, getting a team together would be a great start for that. Sean's put in the chat that the loss of the tech schools was a travesty, which I agree with 100%. And we don't have enough design tech teachers. So in our schools, the woodworking and metalworking, those teachers are not being trained anymore. So we're losing those skills in high school. So there's going to be more and more people leaving school without the ability to make a mug tree. And that sounds like I'm making fun of making a mug tree, but the skills that you learn in high school in those woodworking classes and metalworking classes are important, and we don't have them anymore. So
the tech schools that we had full engineering workshops, mechanical workshops,
yeah,
cooking classes, textiles.
Yep. And VCAT, we still have VCAT, which is the one up near Northland is very similar to a tech school. It's only year 10, 11, and 12, I think, and would be the closest I would think that we have left, but there's only one of them. We do have partnerships now with TAFEs, so our students are able to take TAFE courses, which helps, but doesn't help with that belonging, because often our students are feeling like that's a big jump going to a TAFE to do a subject, whereas previously they could go to a school with their peers. So I agree with you, it's a loss, and our current tech schools are not our old tech schools. Our current tech schools are resources for all the schools around them, and they do high-tech things rather than learning a craft.
You mentioned 0 day with one person joining the Makerspace. Can you speak to the wisdom of having cohorts come in?
Cohorts are great because people feel solidarity with other new people, and so they form connections with their other new makers, and they feel like they can ask them the beginner noob questions. So definitely cohorts make it easier. It also allows people to join as friendship groups, and going with someone that you know into an unknown group of people is much easier than going alone. It's important to continue, though, to check in with what adaptations people do need at the start. So make sure that when you get a cohort that comes in, you still spend time with them in small groups where they feel safe enough to talk about adaptations that they need. I tend to, within Makerspaces, I run model talk about the adaptations that I like to have. I get overstimulated with noise, which as a Makerspace teacher is somewhat challenging sometimes. So we talk about the adaptations that I've put in place for the space for me to function well. And I find that if I'm role modeling that, people are more open, but still not within a wider group. So keeping it to be a small group of people when you're checking in and doing that zero session.
Okay. I think we've run out of questions. Kristen, thank you so much. I must say I'm left with this thought about young people and old people working together, because the young people have got the dexterity and the older people have got some experience and some ideas, even if they can't. So it can be good teamwork if it get.
Amazing teamwork. And the digital fabrication tools these days can really help us overcome any coordination issues or strength issues that both teens and the elderly might be experiencing. So your laser cutter, your 3D printers, they're going to definitely help you with that.
Well, you've given us something to think about as a club, but also, as you can tell from the questions, something that individuals here are going to be thinking about.
Amazing.
Yeah, so thank you very much for coming and joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. And you probably can't see everyone's clapping. You probably can't see it or hear it, but that's happening.
Excellent. Thank you so much, everybody. I look forward to seeing how your Makerspace grows. I was there before I went to Europe, and I'm so excited that you have that space. So I'll pop in when I submit my PhD and see how it's all going. And I look forward to seeing all your exciting projects.
You're likely to come with some suggestions as to how we can use it better.
And feel free to send me emails. Sometimes I'm not very good at responding to them, though, because I do have 3 jobs, 2 teenagers, and a PhD. But hopefully, come February, when my workload goes down, I'll have much more time, and I love talking makerspaces. So
I think your workload won't go down until you're in an aged care facility. So I think you're that type of person. But
I am.
But thank you so much.
No worries. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, we're clapping again. So we'll hand over to David. Tell us what's been going on.
Thanks, Barry. Okay. Quite a few bullet points here, so I just, in no particular order really. Thanks largely to Mick Adams' efforts, we now have a fleet of 12 3D printers available for loan to members. 5 of them are out on loan at the moment, so there's actually 7 available. I think I got that count right. And Mick has another 3 printers that he's recently acquired that he's refurbishing at the moment. He's got a unique talent for making, I nearly used a rude word, printers work well. So more power to Mick. So if anyone really wants to have a dip their toes into 3D printing, there's plenty of opportunity. If you have any friends, any young friends that you know who might be thinking along those lines, or you think might be interested, let them know so they can come along and join the club and then be able to borrow printers. The purpose really, well, I mean, there's 2 purposes of having that sort of stuff. One is to help existing members, obviously, and the other is to try and attract new members. And I think they've probably attracted 1 or 2 new members, Mick, am I right in saying that? Yep, absolutely. So just keep that in mind. If you've got younger people maybe in your orbit that you think would be into that kind of thing, let them know. Because membership and getting new young members is really, really important to this club. We're struggling at the moment to keep energy going in the club. We really are. We are looking at a number of possible strategies for revitalizing, shall I say, the club. It in some ways rather tired, lacking in energy. One of the things is we are exploring possible collaborations with men's sheds. David Evans is going to be talking at the Bentmore Men's Shed on the 28th of this month, telling them about our club. And we're also communicating with the Dingley Men's Shed. So we're sort of trying to reach out there to other vaguely like-minded organisations. A little bit of bad news, the committee is down to 6 members, Kirsten, at the moment. We're down to 6 members. It's meant to be 12 members, so we barely have a quorum. Nominations for membership of the committee are due on Friday. If you are interested in helping us out with that stuff, it's really just contributing ideas and thoughts, I think, as much as anything. You can try and get an application in, a nomination in, I should say. But we do have the ability to appoint people to the committee, even without going through the AGM. We had 2 resignations from the committee this month. One was Greg Attrill, who'd been on the committee for a few months, or about 6 months, I think. He wasn't initially on the committee at the beginning of the year, I don't think. And Julia Mendelowitz, who was a very new member, and she, I think, essentially found out it wasn't going to work for her to be on the committee. So we do miss those people, because we do need the input. We need ideas. We've got 2 projects involving students, which have been largely championed by Kirsten, our secretary. One group, okay, very modest, she's being very modest. One is the website, our online presence is being reviewed by a group of, I think, called IT students from Monash. And then there was another group of students who are indirectly associated with our RMIT, who are working and have started work and have got a budget to create a podcast/vodcast studio in the ex-library room next door. That's just its beginning phases. I attended one of the first meetings here the other day, and there seem to be some pretty bright young people, and hopefully they will come up with some good ideas and give us a facility which is basically intended to attract new young members, because social media exposure is all the rage at the moment. So hopefully we'll get hundreds of intended influencers coming along and creating their podcasts and stuff. On the 5th of September, we hosted the Kingston Council Business Leaders Breakfast. That was the thing that I think we just provided the space for them. They provided the catering. It got us exposed to a lot of people within our geographic area here in Moorabbin. And I mean, being known is the first part of growing. And an interesting part of that was that the Mayor of Kingston was present. Your notes? Okay. We have had the Mayor of Kingston in the room here, and she was not previously aware of our existence, and that can only be a good thing, that we are getting a little bit better known there. I think that's, I've skipped a couple of things here. Kirsten has arranged for the Be Connected program to be advertised in the Kingston Council's Your Voice magazine, which is a magazine put out specifically for senior residents in the area. So that might bring a bit more traffic in as well. And with a bit of luck, those people that come in will sort of see, oh, this is a great place, and talk to their grandchildren about it and say, hey, you go along there and join up and be part of the makerspace and what have you. On the 20th of September, we hosted the Linux Software Freedom Day. I don't want to get into what that might mean politically vis-a-vis other software vendors and what have you, but I think we were, did we just complimentary that one, or we rented out? I can't remember. Oh yeah, that's right. That, I mean, I've been overseas, so this is all sort of secondhand to me. But that 3-hour event, they're apparently partying on late into the night, at least 7 o'clock. That's late in the night at my age. Okay. So that was a great success, just again in getting profile and visibility, which is important. Then on the 28th, there's the mayor there. Okay, right. I think my eye must have slipped down the page. We hosted the STEM incubators on the 28th of September. STEM incubators, well, I think that the name kind of says it all. Promoting STEM with young people. And the Mayor, Georgina Oxley, was present in that one. A couple of things coming up on the very last day of October. We are participating in the Healthy Aging Expo as part of the Glen Ira Council initiative. So we'll have it's a sort of tabletop show. I think we'll have a 3D printer and a couple of things like that, and promote the more the MelbPC side with the Be Connected program and so on. On the 23rd of November, we will be running the volunteer party. So I think the idea there was to nominate people you think are worthy volunteers, and just contact Marlin, and she will, in the office, and she will put them down on the list. And finally, and I think I start off by saying this, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, is the deadline for nominating for committee. So if anyone wants to stand up as president, knock yourself out. But I have renominated, by the way. That's not a threat. That's kind of it for me.
I'm just attaching myself to Kristen's presentation, just to fill in some time. I was asked to speak about something, and I was going to talk about the studio project, but David's done that. But if anybody's interested in that project, contact the office and put your name down and come and have, come and talk to us about it. But I wanted to talk about Makerspace in Moorabbin, our Makerspace, and what we're trying to do. And examples of what we can do, it's also like repair cafe kind of thing, what we're doing at the moment. I've had somebody bring a cup in today that's got a broken bottom on it, and he doesn't want to throw it out because it's of sentimental value. So we'll design and 3D print a new bottom for the cup, and we'll probably make it a rubberized one so that it doesn't crack again, and give him a non-slip. That was from one member. Another member came in with a melted control panel off an electric bicycle, which had been in a fire. The panel itself still works, but as you could probably see, the housing is completely melted. So we'll design a new housing for that so he can get his electric bike going again. That's just a couple of the projects that have come onto my lap today. But we do all of those sort of things and more for our members, just for the joy of it. And if they want to learn the process while we're doing it, that's even more enjoyable for us as well. So do contact the office if you've got something that needs fixing, or contact myself, mic@melbpc.org.au. Let us know what you need, and we'll help you out the best we can. But we are slowly developing from a computer club to a more rounded technology club, including Makerspace. So me personally, I'm not a computer person. I'm barely able to turn one on and then turn it off again successfully. But I can 3D print, and I can design things in Tinkercad, So what I can do, I'm happy to offer my help with any member. And that goes for every other member in this place. I don't think there's any exceptions that people who are members of MelbPC are more than happy to share their knowledge and skills to get somebody going. And that's what we're all about. Yeah. Do I need to pat any more? Thank you.
Thanks, Mick. And I need to thank Mick and Bill, who are the techos who set up in the control space and look after the audio and the video and the streaming unseen. Cedric, are you there already? It's a bit early.
Yep.
Are you happy to speak now?
Yeah, I can take over. If you
Okay.
want to transfer it to me. Yeah, first of all, I think the normal routine's been that we do a bit of a presentation and then we, while people are thinking up their questions, tonight's what I'm going to do might not be of interest to many of the people online, but I'm hoping the word will get out, particularly when doing home visits. You realise these are older people who aren't very mobile and so forth, older members. You find that there are quite a few of them who have probably used 10 or 15 gig a month of data. That's a awfully small amount. Every couple of times a week they pick up one or two emails, or maybe they send one. They might do a bit of low-level browsing, and that's what they have a internet plan for. Of course, virtually always NBN. Well, NBN plans are just going through the roof as far as cost goes. You're getting more and more data. There's virtually the only thing that limits the data you use is the speed of your connection, mostly. And the internet companies pretty much push an awful lot of people onto a 50 download speed, when they'd probably just about get away with a 10 megabit download speed, which in theory is only supportive of a telephone landline, but not internet. But they're getting very expensive, and I did have I still have a 30 down, 10 up ABB plan. It was limited to 100 gigabyte a month, and I never went near that. Well, I went up to about 85 if you count my phone and my computers. 1 month in the last 6 or 8 months, but normal average is about 40. So I don't need any more. Pretty much that's been cut out. Now most NBN plans are unlimited data, but it's only the speed that limits how much you use. And that the beginning of, was it July or no, might have been beginning of August, I think. My costs went up by just under 20%. And I think most people find that. So I've just been looking at alternatives to NBN, and I've just, the last couple of days I've got a wireless service working. It's been a bit of a struggle because you talk to the tech service people, so-called, and the various companies, and they give you, those people don't know enough about what they're talking about to give you accurate information. Obviously, you have to have a reasonable wireless signal in your area. I say only reasonable. It doesn't have to be crash hot. Well, in my case, if I'm quite happy with a 25, well, actual speeds of 25 in busier times down and about 8 or 10 up. I've got I don't have 5G at my house, but I do have 4G, and it's giving me that. The router that I've got, which is receiving the signal from the cell tower, is claimed to be capable of 150 coming from the cell tower. I'm not surprised that I'm only getting about 25 or 30 rather than 150, simply because there's a bit of high ground between me, and I'm pretty sure there's not there's certainly not line of sight from what's only a station to my place 1 kilometre away, and probably not line of sight to the top of the tower, which obviously slows down what's happening. But I'm getting just about the same speeds, Wi-Fi and Ethernet, as I was getting with the NBN. I've only just turned it on, so I'm going to keep on my NBN service for a week or two before I cancel it. The main advantage of this is that I'm going to halve my monthly costs on NBN plus mobile phone, which for somebody who's not using much data, I think that was a lot of people, of our older members and people who don't spend a lot of time on internet, and particularly not on high data usage. If you don't have streaming services and things like that, this would be an alternative if you're a pensioner with a limited amount of income. It took a bit of investigation to find out what you have to find out. You first of all have to find whether the router. Well, first of all, I tried my router that I was using for with ABB. That was a Telstra router. The fact I was using ABB, that told me that it's not tied to Telstra. I found, and I knew it had a SIM slot in it, and various people said, okay, well, if it's not tight and it's got a SIM slot, you'll be able to use it to pick up the signal coming from a cell tower a kilometre away. Well, sorry, but no. It turns out that that SIM slot is for an emergency when your Telstra NBN goes down, and it is a replacement way of getting it. It doesn't have the normal, what we call tied modem to the to Telstra, but it does have instead a routine whenever the SIM card's used, that the SIM card checks that you've got a functional NBN account with Telstra. So backdoor way of tying it to Telstra. I'm speaking to various people trying to find out how these things work. It's amazing the number of tech service people and various retailers who really have no understanding of the difference between Wi-Fi, which I think people say has got 15 to 30 metres range. 30 would be pretty lucky. And the signal coming from the cell tower a kilometre away, or if you're out in the bush, some low frequency channels go a lot further than a kilometre. Probably, the best 15 or 20 years ago, I was making, well, up until COVID, I was making a number of trips up to northern New South Wales, and I knew that Vodafone had a string of towers along the Newell Highway, but I can guarantee that they're a lot bigger spacing than the spacing that you got cell towers in the middle of the city. Whether they're 5 kilometres or 25 apart, I don't know, but you can get quite long distance with the right technology. Most of these tech people just can't stay on the topic you're talking about, because they don't seem to have much concept of the fact that there are various types of radio systems in your mobile phone and each have a particular use. But anyway, so finding out whether your modem's going to do the job. First of all, is the modem that had a SIM slot in it? Does it? Will it accept the pick up the messages from coming from the cell towers, convert it into either Wi-Fi or Ethernet, send it out and things like that. But if you want big volumes, of course, you're going to be paying a lot for wireless data. I take it most people that are listening to me right now would be aware, but wireless data has a very low cost to exist. Once you start using data, the cost per gigabyte of data is much higher for that than for NBN. In fact, NBN virtually, you don't have a cost for how much data you use. You've only got a cost for having a connection, but it's a pretty enormously high cost for having a connection. I think anyway, I'll leave it there while I'm talking. Does anybody thought of any questions they'd like to ask?
Cedric, Windows 10, can you fill us in on the story with the Windows 10 wind down?
Sorry, I was
So
a bit
Windows
blurred.
10.
I didn't get the audio quite. But Windows 10, yes. Well,
Yeah.
it's shutting down. What's today? The 1st. It's shutting down in 4 days, in 14 days' time.
So it's not shutting down, is it? It's the support that's shutting down.
Yeah, the support on it is shutting down. With a qualification, you can, it's dead easy to get another 12 months of free support. Earlier on, they were offering you extended support for various fees. Now, there's a system where you have to configure OneDrive, which is their data storage thing. Do a little bit of configuring of that. Pretty simple. And you qualify then to get another 12 months of free support of Windows 10. But I was reminded just recently because I had 2 people who were still had Windows 10 things on Monday, 2 days ago, when I was doing an iHelp session. With iHelp is saying to people, if you haven't done it yet, don't really, rather than rushing out at a peak time when everybody's buying computers, you can't get refurbished ones, you're going to be paying more. Think about the alternative of getting this extended support for, and take your time to get a replacement. Of course, if your current one is compliant, can be upgraded, well, without doing backdoor upgrades, we'll certainly go ahead of that instead. But quite a lot of people have got computers that can't be upgraded.
How do you go about getting that extended support?
Oh, I haven't done it. Let me just have a quick look. I've got something down here. Trouble is that this includes a link, which I'll have to see if I can put it in there when I can find this. Where are we? No, that's not it. Yeah.
I believe Harry's got his hand up.
I've
Maybe.
got a link here. I'll try and tend how to join Windows 10 ESU. Copy link location. It's on a Windows Central, which is a fairly well-known web page. The free of charge for 1 year is to do a bit of change of settings in Windows, so that some basic Windows settings are backed up to a OneDrive. You can virtually say, if you've got Windows 10, you'll more than likely have a personal Microsoft account behind that installation, and therefore you'd have a OneDrive account. It might be the free version of OneDrive, which only takes 5 GB, but backing up a few settings is not going to use 5 GB or 5 MB or anything like that. Let's see if I can
Cedric, Harry's got his hand up. He might be able to add
all
something.
right. I was just about to post it. So, okay, if Harry wants to take over, because Harry's
to take over. No, I think we look at the same page, Cedric, aren't we? You get to Windows Update when you're in Windows 10, and you should be told there.
Yeah.
Settings Update and Security Windows Update.
There.
Click check for updates.
I've just put up the
Yeah,
Windows Central
right.
Windows Central
Yeah.
URL.
Yeah, sure. Good. That's what it's all there. And by now we don't know how serious not having security is going to prove, and it's simply a matter of probabilistic reasoning. But it's a good form of insurance to get the security updates, and the entry cost is very low for people who are using what Microsoft approves of, which is they've got a Microsoft account that's used for logging in to their Windows, whatever else they're doing in the Microsoft world. And almost always that's going to be at least a personal account with 5 GB of cloud store, to which you can easily automatically back up your settings. And in fact, you're guided to do that if you read down the page from where I was just reading. So also, I believe I've read that by now in the European Union, extended security updates are going to be free of charge without even that low entry bar. And it'll be interesting to see how long that asymmetry persists between the EU and the rest of the world. Excuse me.
Yes, another point is that there has been some speculation, because there's lots of websites telling you how to get around the fact that your Windows 10 machine can't be upgraded to 11. And there are lots of backdoor methods of doing it. However, there is also speculation that Microsoft might start putting updates out that do something to limit the usability of those backdoor Windows 11 installations. So there's first of all security dangers, and then there's also possibility of a few problems like that you'll find. You'll do some hard work upgrading, and a couple of months later you might find, whoops, nothing's working.
I think that Microsoft is getting very, very unpopular with a certain subset of users. And I think the reputational damage to Microsoft, if it were in any way to sabotage the people who are using the backdoor system. I have next to me my old desktop computer tower, which is on that form of Windows 11. And I think there are probably thousands, if not millions of people who are in that situation. And I'm sure that somewhere in Microsoft, somebody is a bit concerned about the very bad press it's getting from a lot of users for a number of different reasons. It's not all got to do with the lunatic gathering rush into AI that we're seeing, where Microsoft is, among others, of course, stuffing its AI product down our throats, whether we want it or not. So I think it may or may not be that there are ways in which they can fill it out, support for the backdoor things, but I think they're going to have to be pretty careful.